guitar fam and friends, welcome back to another episode of the Improv Loop. This time we're going to continue talking about improvising over major chords by talking about doing something that I like to call reactive playing. And by reactive playing, you're not actively thinking about any scale shapes or chord shapes or anything like that, arpeggios or anything, but you're just picking a scale and kind of reacting to the chords that go by. Because what happens a lot of times is you end up with a chord progression that's just too much. It's just too fast for you to think about every single note that's going on and every single chord change that's going on. And that happens a lot, but the better you'll get, the more you'll be able to hit those chords and play over those chords. But sometimes it's just too much. So this lesson and the next lesson kind of piggyback off of one another because we're going to be using the major pentatonic scale a lot. And I know we've been concentrating on kind of chord shapes and arpeggio shapes up to this point, but this time we're going to add two notes into the G major arpeggio that we went over in the last couple lessons. This one, the one where is taken from this E bar chord shape when we're just using the top four strings to play up that shape. And sometimes sliding up to the third, and then hitting the fifth and the root. And remember last lesson, our goal was to get root, third, fifth, root memorized. And sometimes slide up to that third if you want. Now this time, if that's our formula, if we started with just the root notes for the G out of the shape, and then we added in the third and the fifth, and then back to the root again here. For a major pentatonic scale, all you're gonna do is add in the 2 and the 6. See how we're kind of stacking things or building from the most basic foundational thing, which is the root, added in the third and the fifth, 2 notes, to make this triad, to give us 3 note choices to play over G major chord. And now we're adding in the second, which is right here, 5th fret of the high E string. And then the 6th is right here, 5th fret of the B string. And when we put those notes in, if you know this box pattern for major pentatonic, the one that has this lowest root note on the 6th string for G major, 3rd fret, all we're doing is building out that box. There's the 3rd, and there is the 2nd again, and then back to the root. So we're adding in a 2nd here on the 2nd fret of the G string, and a 2nd here on the 5th fret of the high E string, and then 1/6 right there on the 5th fret of the B string. And that's all we're gonna do. We're only gonna use 1 octave for this exercise because I don't want you to get distracted with, going up and down the scale all the way. And just, sounding like you're playing through a major pentatonic scale over and over again. What I want you to do is take the jam track on the loop that we have for this lesson, which is based on the Bob Marley tune, No Woman, No Cry. It's a 1-5-6-4 progression. And the chords go by 1. I think every 2 beats, and that's a lot to think about playing over the changes. So sometimes it's better to trust your intuition with a scale and just improvise using the scale and let your ear lead you where to go. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So first of all, you have to get the scale shape down if you don't know it. So do that first, and you can do that over the jam track or just by yourself out of time. That's probably what I'd recommend. And be aware of where your roots are. And if you've been doing this exercise with the arpeggio that we've been playing, what's going to happen is your ear will hopefully, or should, start being attracted or drawn to those notes to land on or rest on if you're playing over a G major chord. Like if you just had a static G major chord, just like... Like I'm playing the pentatonic scale, but I'm landing on the root, the 5th, the 3rd, and the root, and kind of emphasizing those notes and using either the 2nd as a passing kind of tone or the 6th as a passing tone. Like that. And there's the 3rd, and then you can use the 2nd as a passing tone to get down to the root. And that's what you end up doing kind of naturally when you use the major pentatonic scale. You hunt for those notes, but actively trying to resolve something down or just doing what sounds good to your ear is a really good skill to have that you can rely on once you get used to using all these arpeggios and like major pentatonic scales in this case, or the major scale even. And we'll get to that a little bit later. We'll add 2 more notes to the major pentatonic scale to make the major scale, and then we'll have a lot better understanding of how to play over chord changes. For this one, the whole point of this video is to just introduce you to the idea of reactive playing, and that's just adjusting your notes out of a scale based on what sounds good to your ear as the chord changes go by. That's it. And to do that, we're going to have use the major pentatonic scale as a tool, and still be thinking about our major arpeggio too that we have. So what I have this loop programmed in here. So what I'm going to do is just put that on, play the major pentatonic scale, and not really think about the chord changes at all. And what I'm going to do is just let my ear guide me. If I don't like a note, I'm going to get off of that note over a particular chord and go to another one. So your ear can kind of guide you. And the more you mess with arpeggios and things like that over the years, the better you'll get at kind of just doing this naturally. Here you go. So that everything I played, I'm not going to say that's the greatest solo I've ever played, but everything I played sounded legit, and it sounded good, and it sounded like it belonged, because I was just using my ear to kind of resolve the notes in that scale over the chords that it went by, and just try to get creative. Like, I would skip around some notes in the scale, and if I didn't like it, that note, I would just resolve it up. Like if let's say I landed on that note, this note, and I didn't like it, I would just resolve it down to this root. Or let's say I landed on the 6, and it sounded great, but like I don't know where to go after that, and I go to a 2, and it's like, oh, that didn't sound good, maybe I'll go to the 5. It's just learning how to get off of a note if you don't like it, and to kind of accentuate the notes that you do like. And you'll get to where you can hear the pentatonic scale in your head kind of when you're playing over a chord progression like this. But I figured this is a good chord progression to do because most people know this tune, or at least have heard it, and the chords move by pretty quickly, and that's the way, like the solo in the song I'm doing the tab for right now for a lesson, and it sounds like that's the way he's playing. He's just using major pentatonic scale and throwing in some notes from the major scale even to resolve things down to what sounds good over the chords. And that's all I want you to do for this lesson, is just take the jam track for this, or program in a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression and your looper, and just play around with the major pentatonic scale. But the idea here is to kind of limit yourself to just this one octave, or even just the top 4 strings. That way you don't have to feel like you always have to play through the entire scale. And you can, when the G chord hits, it's the first, chord of the loop, you can go up that major arpeggio and then go pentatonic. And if you know the 6th chord is coming up, you can hit the 6. Now we don't have a 4 for the root note of the 4 in the major pentatonic scale, but we have a 5. So if you know the 5 chord is coming up, you can play the 5 there. And that's one thing, your ear is going to kind of naturally be drawn to those notes over those chords anyway. But that's not the point of this lesson. Again, the point is to just start working on your reactive playing. So do what sounds good to you within the parameters of using just this arpeggio, but mainly this major pentatonic scale. Okay, hopefully you can see how we're kind of just stacking things a little bit at a time. That way you don't feel overwhelmed with your improvisation. So another good step for you to practice reactive playing with a major pentatonic scale might be to just program in a G. And see how you can do over something that's not changing chords so fast. But we have the 1, 5, 6, 4 Bob Marley-esque progression for you to jam over for this lesson. If you have any questions at all about the ideas in this video or in this series, you can email us support@guitarfam.com, or better yet, go to guitarfam.com and create your complimentary account. Every Guitar Fam member gets 1 complimentary private lesson with me, so you can book that on the site too if you're having trouble with anything. I'll see you later. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below too. Bye.